I'm waiting for the technology to kick in. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need to call for. I do. What's that? Sure. Instead of 9, you get out of here on the first. Yes. What do you want? And where's the dial? Slows my cell phone. Hello. Hello, Clifton. There you are. Okay, we got you on speakerphone. Also, you have a microphone close enough that people can hear you.
Okay.
All right. So we already set the flag salute. So I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries. I have one issue that we're going to need to amend the agenda on the line with the Blue Cross Blue Shield grant money. I need to have a motion to remove that from the agenda.
I make that motion to remove the Blue Cross Blue Shield grant money from the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. Mr. Bailey.
All right, get started here. Got some culvert permits for you. First one is Lantern's at 2522 Locust. It is complete, so sign off on the back there. Next one's 989 230th Hilliard. It's just a residential single family.
Is done or new?
It's new.
It's new. Okay.
These two here are new, and
This goes to Lynn.
I like your name.
there you go. And then the other one here is another residential entrance for Doug Adamson at 1629 195th.
Okay. All right. I make a motion to approve a culvert installation in the public right of way at 989 230th Street for Ronnie Hilliard for a single family dwelling.
Yep.
Here, second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Make another motion for a culvert installation for 1629 195th Street for Mr. Doug Adamson, residential.
Here, second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Next, we'll go over, we've done some bridge work last week. I'll give you a rundown on that. 260th and Indian, south of the intersection, we had some undermining on the east side of the low water crossing on the north and south ends of the crossing, we went ahead and put some flowable fill in underneath there and capped it with concrete. And then rain set in, so we were unable to get the large riprap put back on, but we'll come back and get that on there. So I checked it yesterday, and everything's still holding. So
Good.
That worked out well. And then also just to the west of that, we cleaned brush and debris out of another crossing there on Indian west of 260th. So hauled a couple dump truck loads of logs and debris out of there and cleaned it out so the water could get through. So today we have a blast scheduled for Beth Quarry somewhere between 12 and 3:30. Just to let you know on that. We will drone the blast, or try to drone it, weather permitting. So I'll have a video of that, and we will go ahead and put I just drew a blank on the seismograph around on the couple of different residents around there, so we know what the blast does. And that will be with Morgan Services out of Kansas City. Moving on, windmills, had a meeting with IEA yesterday, but they were unable to start last week due to the wind conditions. As we know, the wind was gusting upper 40s, lower 50s, and they shut them down, so they were unable to do any work on the roads. Had another meeting yesterday, like I said, and still waiting on permits, or not permits, but on plans, which I did just get off the phone right before I come in here, and they're on the process of bringing plans to me today to be able to review, and then I can review them with our engineer after I review those.
Will this be showing different locations where they're planning on making adjustments to the entrances or intersections, things like that?
It should be a complete set of everything. So, and then along with that, they're supposed to be bringing me maps. I thought I would have it today of actual locations of said sites, but I should get it later today as well. Probably when the plans show up, I'll get the maps as well. Maybe something you want to put up in the commission room or whatever you want to do with the map, but it'll be a fairly large map. I know Apex is going to provide us with that. So anyhow, that's kind of where we're at on that. Everyone's been great to work with, IEA and Apex, so I really do appreciate that. Have been in contact with Frank Young with Ag Engineering. I've had a few questions, and he was able to help me get through it. So everything's going well right now. So, and then the last thing I have, do you have any questions on windmills before I move on or anything? Or
is your plan to have Todd Fox do the initial inspection and the final inspection by Frank Young, or what's your procedures?
Actually, probably a little bit of both. If we have questions, Todd will do majority of it. They'll provide us with their documentation as it calls out in the road use agreement. And then if we have questions or concerns, then we'll bring Frank in and make sure that Frank's definitely in the loop.
Good.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, he's been contacted more than once.
Yes.
On this project already.
Yes,
so
already.
He's made some decisions or give us some guidance on some of the issues that.
Right. Yes,
I've
had multiple conversations with him so far.
Good.
And again, I do want to say that Apex and IEA have been very receptive to our ideas and what have you, and worked very, very well with us. So far it's been a great process. And then last here, as everyone's aware, we had major heavy rains there Friday, and experienced some pretty good damage out in the county. Had some washouts. Had 145th and Poplar just to the north of it. Had a whistle, 36-inch, I believe is what it was. There's two of them in there, but anyhow, it washed all the way 3/4 of the way around across the road, and then undermined the rest of the way. And people were still trying to drive over it because it was their only access to their house, because of the other end had a low water crossing that was completely flooded. You could not drive through. So anyhow, we went in yesterday and temporarily put a new culvert in so they could get to and from their house. And then when the weather straightens up and dries out a little bit, we'll go back and fix it right. But I wanted to do something so they could get to their house, because that was the only means of getting in and out, and it was pretty dangerous. So we went out, surveyed yesterday. Road graders went out, surveyed, filled out sheets for me on different areas that had damage. I'll kind of show you here a little bit. I got road damage reports, but there's quite a few. Some of them are minor, some of them are major, but we are going to be busy for a little while getting cleaned back up. Nothing can't handle. It's just going to be a little time consuming, and we'll have to retrieve some rock out of ditches, and then some of it we'll have to bring more rock in. So that kind of lets you know where we're at there. Barricades, we had to do quite a bit of barricading there Friday for flash flooding. Had guys out to about 8 o'clock, and then water pretty much receded and went down. We kept some barricades out over the weekend, but still have a few out today, and water is receding, so we'll probably be picking them up here today or tomorrow and go from there. Any questions, comments, anything for me?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, you and I talked about 95th Street and Range Road and those issues.
Right.
The usual suspected hills
Yep.
have the same usual suspected damage.
Right. Yeah. So I know
that was 5.5 inches of rain over that event.
Yeah.
So it got fairly deep, but the rivers got out a little bit, but they didn't stay out. So
Right.
that was a good thing.
Right. So does Clifton have anything, or?
Clifton, you got anything?
Nope.
Okay. All
There
right.
you go. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Eric.
Yep.
Clint? Mr. Anderson.
Just something quick, on the 4th of next month, I have had an employee, one of my field staff, provide me written notice that he's retiring on the 4th. And this is the timing is probably pretty good training wise to replace him, and I wanted to get the opportunity to open that up right away so that by the time he's retiring, we have someone chosen and in place to move forward. And if we have somebody a few days early, that wouldn't hurt either, if that's fine with you.
So I hear a motion to replace.
Yes, I'll make a motion to allow Clint Anderson to hire a position opening in the appraiser's office to replace a gentleman or ladies who are retiring.
Here a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
Yeah, that's all I
Thanks,
needed.
Clint.
Thank you so much.
Shane Walker. Mr. Walker.
Mr. Walker.
There we go.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's kind of three of us. Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, no kidding.
I thought I talked soft. There's three of us here this morning that we're going to talk about relocating our communication center, our dispatch for Bourbon County. Currently, it's in the police station on National Street, or the public safety facility on National. It's been there since 90s, late 90s, early 90s maybe. And some of the concerns we've had for a few years has been disasters and relocating dispatch if there happens to be a disaster. There is a small storm shelter we have on the facility, on the property, but the dispatchers would have to take their mobile radios, go for shelter, and then come out, and then we don't know what we would have left in that building. And there's also security issues as well. I think we have an opportunity to relocate that to the old jail at the courthouse. And Tracy's got a little presentation she's going to talk about, and then Shane has some information as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Has recently discussed that he's been given opportunity to move our 911 dispatch center to the previous Bourbon County Jail. It's very beneficial to us because providing structural protection and security. Dispatch is going to be going from like a 325 square feet to about 825 square feet. There's a lot of public that comes in and out. It's not just structurally safe for us, it'll also be security wise. The safety of our citizens and this community is very important. Like Dave said, if we have like a natural disaster such as a tornado, my dispatchers would literally have to get up out of their seats and move, and you should never have to do that. That should be something that's continuously going on if something like, a tornado would happen, because the county citizens and the city citizens, that's what's important, because we're the first line of, communication to everybody. So we do have 911 funds that'll be taking care of the move with a lot of our stuff. And I put the pictures together so you'd kind of see what our dispatch center looks like now, and from going from that to the county or to the old jail, it'll be a lot more room for them. And the servers, in one of the pictures you'll see, when we had the next gen, which is the state 911 system, we had no room in our building to put this. So I have actually the servers in my office. So that's just kind of, and then on the one you'll see when you come into the lobby, there's dispatch right there. Like I said, there's a lot of public comes in and out, and there's a lot of security issues with dispatch, and with being so close and accessible to the public, that's an issue too, and it's a safety concern. So
Okay, so you've been looking over the details of how this could be moved, correct?
Right. Yeah, Paul Ballou and I started talking about this a year or so before the jail moved, for the need for them to have a secure location. And that old jail is rated to handle 200-mile-an-hour wind without any problems. It would allow them to be in there right next to the EOC as well. So if we had a disaster, that's kind of like a needed thing. And then they're going to utilize our server area in the back to securely keep their server equipment.
And we already have a server room in the old correctional facility space, and it'd just be an expansion of that.
Right. It's just an extra room in there.
So, Justin, to make this happen, there would need to be an interlocal agreement.
There would need to be probably some type of interlocal agreement with the lease attached to it. So once you guys if you decided to today make a motion to move forward, I can have that lease / interlocal agreement ready for the city by their next commission meeting in 2 weeks. And then once you guys approve it on that morning meeting, and then they can have it that afternoon meeting, there's still some details to work out.
All right. So probably take 1 to 2 weeks, that we probably have a good idea what the overall cost would be for the move.
I don't know if that would necessarily be the commission's concern. I mean, it's obviously important, but the reason I say that is that the 911 funds are going to be used to that move. So
what I was digging for is what to make this move. You're not paying utilities somewhere else.
right.
You're actually going to save taxpayer money by making this move.
There will be savings to the taxpayers because of outside of the savings to the taxpayers. I think the most important part in my mind is the safety issue.
Yes.
I mean, we know we live in an area where we don't know all the weather, and that space that they currently have sounds like it's pretty small, and if a tornado came through, that building's not rated for probably even a 100-mile-an-hour wind.
it would deplete our dispatch completely.
So that's the other thing about the old correctional facility. It is rated for EF4 tornado, so it would take a very, very big tornado to bring that building down, which really increases the security and safety of the 911. And with a natural disaster, it's imperative we have 911.
The other thing about that facility, I hope the commissioners make that motion today, that once you guys decide to go forward, that'll become another lockdown facility. It'll go back to being almost like a jail. We'll have restricted access. You know, that's another thing that's always been fascinating to me is when you go into the PD, that they're the greeters. You know, they're saying hello, how can I help you? And I wouldn't necessarily want to be in that position if I was an 911 call center. That's not an ideal situation. So, I mean, it creates this kind of very secure area that would be really hard to get to.
So I'd entertain a motion to move forward with plans to and approving to go forward with plans to move this back down.
Okay. I'll make a motion to tentatively approve moving forward with the intent of dispatch moving into the old jail area, allow them to move forward with final approval with the review and agreement, interlocal agreement between the city and county.
Here, a second.
Second.
And make that a secure facility.
Yeah, make that a secure facility.
Yes, make it a secure facility.
Any discussion?
Second.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
All right.
All right. Motion carries.
Thank you.
You bet. Next item, this is up for discussion with the commissioners. I don't know if you got the last update from our health department, but I think right now Bourbon County stands at 3 active cases for the COVID. Right now we have a door monitor that takes temperatures and a mask, and the doors are locked. It may be time to change that, open up the courthouse so the steps are done. I feel that maybe it's a time to transition back to a little less control over the mask, but that still doesn't relinquish the liability. The liability is still going to stay in place as is dictated through, well, nationally, all the way down to us locally. Now, if you notice that it has never been relinquished at the top as far as holding who's going to be responsible for the liability. But saying that with what we have, diminishing cases and looking forward, I really feel that it's going to get less. People are now getting shots. I know there's a lot of people have been vaccinated. I know that the nursing homes has all been had their rounds. I don't know if everyone's been vaccinated, but I would like to hear what your thoughts are.
Well, I'd like to start, of course, you probably all got the email from our county clerk with her concerns of us opening up the building too early with her employees as well as employees at the Register of Deeds and Treasurer's Office. I know they're concerned in that building that we're moving too fast. And maybe we are. I mean, we're sitting in this room with masks. So do we want to put them in an area that people coming in without masks? I mean, where's the liability land, Justin? I mean, these people are concerned that we're moving too early.
Obviously, elected official within the confines of the building can make their own decision with regards to a mask mandate for their office. I mean, that's kind of the starting point. You know, the commission made a decision to basically lock down the courthouse and allow for access to happen if you got your temperature checked and you were made to wear a mask. I mean, any elected official can still have that decision. They have the ability to control their confines of their area. You know, obviously, every office now has the plexiglass. They have, you know, protocols in place that limits the access of individuals into the courthouse. So, you know, a really good example is the clerk's office. They have basically a window now. You know, they've limited access to their office through contact points. So obviously what you're going to be missing is the temperature check. That's going to, I mean, the mask part can still be put in place. You can still make someone wear a mask, you know, especially an elected official could say, I want this person to wear a mask to come into my office space. So basically, I think what you're doing is you're stepping back the actual temperature check part of it and allowing for people, the elected officials, to make that decision on if they want to have masks or not, or how they want to have people come into their office. So it's going from locking down the facility to allowing it to be open and letting that elected official make that decision on what they want to do with the mask mandate or not. And that's the foreseeability with the liability issue is going to go on for quite some time.
Long time.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to say about that. I mean, I don't know what it looks like. I'm not that type of an attorney. I don't do, you know, that type of law, but obviously the foreseeability is there. I mean, anybody can articulate it. If you can trace it back to an actual spread from a citizen to an employee, that could be a concern, but good. I mean, that's going to be hard to prove.
So what would be allowing open commission meeting and no mask?
No, not unless we vote to eliminate it. The mask mandate is still in place, and then back to that point, it's never been enforceable. And we've always stated it's not been enforceable, and anyone can make the decision to wear a mask or not wear a mask. But the facilities still will have the signs up, mask required. Of course, there's a lot of facilities that have signs up that says mask required. You know, when you go eat or go to a doctor or go to the dentist or anywhere like that.
But there's a difference between a mask mandate that's enforceable and that isn't enforceable. I think that if you would say to come into the commission room, you have to wear a mask, and if you don't want to wear a mask, you can't come into the commission room. There is some enforcement arm, and you know the commission I think has the legal ability to do that. You know, obviously you go to places in our community that have the mask sign, and there's lots of people that aren't wearing the masks, and that's up to that private business to make that decision. So, you know, obviously that sign is there to maybe help with liability issues on some levels, but when it comes right down to it, we don't know what that looks like, and that goes to Commissioner Harris's comments. I don't know what that, you know, I don't. You know, 5 years from now, you know, you got COVID at work, call it 100 COVID case. I mean, I don't know what that is, but it could happen. And I don't know. The only way to limit that is to go back to or keeping things the way they are. If we're concerned about that. But also common sense has to come into play on some levels too. I mean, we have to start getting back to some level of normalcy, and we're spending tax dollars to monitor temperatures, and it has worked. We've had people come in and had a temperature, and we've protected our employees. But with 3 active cases and what's happening on a national level with vaccinations and things of that nature, it should be diminishing on some levels. And it's also a matter of high risk, low risk too. I mean, there are certain people that would be at a higher risk than others, and so hopefully we've mitigated those situations. We do have a couple employees that would be considered high risk, but I think those elected officials have the ability to make some decisions on how they want to handle their employees. And we're going to be talking about that later on this morning about taking the hiring freeze off. So the commission has control, but when it comes right down to it, it's really the elected official making that decision.
Well, you know,
But we can't get rid of it. We cannot get rid of the liability. It's still going to be there.
oh yeah, it's going to be there for probably another year.
Clifton, you have any comments?
The liability is still there even with temperature checks.
Yes, they are.
Yeah, but yeah.
The liability there is there no matter what. You know, if you look at Bourbon County courthouse and our organization, we weren't immune from the COVID. We had a lot of people that did get COVID. You know, and we tried our best to make sure that we protected people. We required the mask, and to some extent, I do believe that helped, because the mask, they say, it doesn't protect me, it protects you. And I think that And now that this thing is down to 3 cases, active cases, I think we're looking at a lot of minimal exposure personally. And like I say, I think it's, well, going back to the beginning of this thing, Justin and I, when this first came out, we had very in-depth discussion before the pandemic was really enforced or put out. So we knew that there was something going on a massive level. Well, I think maybe at this point we're seeing that we've turned the corner. And
I think you're right, as long as we don't turn the corner too quickly. And I know there's a lot of discussion that nationwide. Are we getting too big of a hurry? It's not gone yet, but we have made vast improvements across the country. But as long as we don't get too big of a hurry and ask it to come back.
Well, there's other, I mean, Commissioner Beth probably has a better understanding of this than anyone else in the room because of his medical background, but there's other strands, there's other things happening on a global level where this could return. But if that's the case, we'll do what happened on March 15th of 2020, which was a Sunday. I mean, the commission made a decision that next day to, basically shut down and figure out what was going on, and we could do that again. But I think every elected official has the ability to make decisions with their own office with what they want to do with the mask. I mean, I don't think we should get rid of that per se, but the control part is set up differently than it was back in March of 2020. I mean, we have things in our offices now that protect our employees. We have plexiglass and we have protocols and we have the stickers on the floor and we have different things that weren't there a year ago now. So we have to take that in consideration too, as we've learned more about this pandemic or this COVID than we did a year ago too. And I think you should go with the date certain. I don't think it should be today. I think you should set like April 1, or I think that's a Friday, maybe have that 4th Monday, whatever day. I don't think you should do it today, but definitely 2 weeks from now, probably, just to give everybody a transition period. And we can maybe see where it's, to help with Commissioner Harris, maybe we can see where it's going to be in 2 weeks too.
that would be April the 5th.
Is that a Monday?
That's a Monday.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying you should probably not just.
Well, that was kind of a suggestion. It was suggested to me also. The first is on the Thursday, so it gives us, some time to step up and make the transition.
I don't have any other questions.
Any other questions? So I'm going to move that we remove or we open up the courthouse, and we still will have in place the mask and the social distancing as directed by our county health department, and that take place on April the 5th. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Any discussion?
No.
I will say that, so when it comes to temperature checks, there are discussions in the medical side of that, of whether they actually work anyway. Upwards of 40 to, depends on what study you read, 40 to 45% of people will not show a fever and will be asymptomatic, or minor symptoms. So there is proof on both sides of temperature checks of whether they work anyway. There's actually probably more proof that they're not a huge valid thing regardless. So that's the science behind temperature checks, the true science. So I mean, there's plenty of evidence-based practice out there about that. So a lot of questions. So the temperature checks are questionable at best, regardless. So
Any other comments?
now masks. We are, and it is a little hard to hear sometimes, but we are not removing the mask mandate. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Social distancing and the mask mandate still are in effect. It says directed by our county health.
Okay.
Chairman, another issue too is what doors are you gonna open?
Well, I think we did the same doors. It'd be the southeast doors and the northeast doors, and then and the one on the north. The one on the north is already open.
So you're gonna open up, we're finally gonna get to use our new stairway?
Yes, we are.
And we'll put signs up in the commission room. You cannot enter without a sign. We gotta have
Yes.
something to tell these folks this, so.
Yes. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Motion carries. All right, I've been busy today. I got another one. Okay, back when our Barbara Albright was commissioner and chair, we started a hiring freeze on employees to replace existing employees. That hiring freeze was put in place because we were having budgetary issues at that time. Those budgetary issues have since been taken care of. And I think probably it's time to eliminate that hiring freeze, and let these, elected officials and us, hire when we are replacing a person that is retiring or is no longer in our employment.
Question for you. Question for Justin. Just explain to me, I mean, I don't understand what the hiring freeze was because I've lived through it for several years as director. And it was tough too, so.
Yes, it was.
Yes. But does this mean that, I'll just pick on Clint because he was here this morning, he would need a replacement? He would work with Susan to make sure it's in the budget? I mean, how do we stop a free-for-all that they work with her, the budget, and Susan said, yes, you have the money from 3 employees, 1 employee in the budget, or you do not? I mean, there's got to be some measuring cup here.
There's a really good webinar that I'll send you from Kansas Association of Counties that talk about the authority. This is kind of, and unfortunately because of COVID, you guys haven't really had the opportunity to go to training. So this is kind of Commission 101. And I'm not necessarily an expert, but I feel like I could probably communicate your question in a fairly articulate manner, I hope. So the power of the commission of Bourbon County Commissioners is not an issue of hiring and firing for an elected official. There's some Attorney General's opinions that we've presented in the past that basically say if a elected official wants to hire someone and if it's within their budget, then they have that ability to do that. Now, there's 2 departments that are in the commission authority that are not elected that have pretty good staffs associated with them. And, Mr. Anderson was one of those people that would have that authority of the commission over him. But even then, you wanted a director to have that authority to hire and fire as they seem fit because they're the directors, and that's what their terminology is. So the reason I bring all that up is that if they go over budget, that is a direct violation of the cash basis law. No fund warrants. Really bad things could happen to that elected official or that director, and basically that would not bode well for them to get reelected or to keep their jobs. So with Susan on board now, we can actually do some things that we haven't been able to do in the past. We can look at line items within the budgets. We can find ways to maybe increase those departments or those elected officials' salaries just because of how the budget cycle is working out now. I mean, there's all these things that we can do that we haven't been able to do in the past. So it's exciting on some levels. I mean, if I was an elected official, I'd be pretty happy about this because what that does is it says I have authority to do X, Y, and Z, and I have the budget to do X, Y, and Z. Because we've had, those 4 years after Commissioner Albright, that next cycle of people that came in, there was some pretty serious budget issues that were, you lived it, and so did I. I mean, it was not good. We had some problems that we had to resolve, and those issues have been resolved. So it's a matter of what the authority of the commission is, and that is basically policy and budget. That's your guys' wheelhouse. So if someone overspends, obviously the commission is going to have to be involved in that. And if a director or an elected official decides to go that route, that's not good. I mean, there's lots of problems.
For an elected official, we can't do anything to them.
Oh, yes, you can't.
Work within their budget.
No, you have the ability to come in you know, if you have reasonableness and have it can articulate it, you could cut their budget, cut their funding.
Budget, yeah.
Right. And a no fund warrant is not a good place to be because the other departments and elected officials would have to help them come up with that money to get that no fund warrant resolved.
Hopefully by your next meeting, I will have a report to you. I've had a couple months now that I can kind of comb through some things. There's some area of concerns, and so I will have a report for you that kind of lays out all those different areas of where there's some control issues, as well as maybe some HR practices that need to be implemented. So,
Susan has spent a lot of hours going through all the items that she's been talking about, all the
Yeah.
budgeted items, all the transactions, and she's done a phenomenal job of pointing out things that was going to benefit us.
yeah, did the bags under my eyes give it away?
Well, and really, and to go on that point too, what that does is that once we get the problems fixed that we've known about for a while, it can help the elected officials and the department heads better understand their budgets, and understand the process. So there could be money that we could use for other things like possibly salary increases or hourly increases, things of that nature. Because if you look at a budget, you can easily see where there could be some ability to give someone a raise without having to ask for more money. It's just a matter of where your priorities are and where you want to spend it. And I think that's where Susan's finding some abilities maybe for some elected officials and department heads to actually do that.
I think what I've found out the most is, we set a budget. A budget is just a target. And there's been some misunderstandings between the difference of budget and cash, and maybe not always looked at appropriately. And so we'll spend our entire budget, but the cash didn't come in to cover that budget. And so if we're not looking at both, then that's when we get into cash basis violations. And
Right.
so there's some learning that needs to go on, and we've talked about having some department head meetings just to kind of Finance 101, just to kind of talk through some of those and how to monitor that.
And that should make the clerk's job easier and also the commission jobs easier when it comes to budget cycles, because instead of, having the way we've kind of done it, we might be able to maybe present that differently in the future, because now it's just kind of, on some levels it's willy-nilly. We think we need this, but they're going to know exactly, they're going to have a much better understanding of what their needs are. And it could end up saving tax dollars too, especially when we start looking at line item budgets, which I think is vital. We've always talked about that. We just never been able to get to it. Is that going to be something we could do, maybe someday?
End of the year, maybe?
End of this year? Yeah, okay.
So
You're saying make it next year.
I'm only 20 hours, remember?
I know the feeling.
You know what we said about that one, yeah.
I know. I know.
Justin, you're only 20 hours, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish it was really that.
Uh-huh.
So I would, Justin, Justin does have access to a good presentation from the KEC that they just recently presented, and I really encourage the rest of the commissioners to watch it. It really defines a lot of things about budgeting and personnel, and I think it's a good. I enjoyed the presentation.
Yeah, it's the kind of presentation you would get at that association meeting, when we used to go, but we haven't had that. But I don't think that's going to happen again this year. I think we're going to have to maybe do a lot of online training, just like our coma stuff for next week. So
23rd.
Yep.
What time?
10:30.
That's what I put in. I think. It's on my calendar.
And one last comment, that the budget cycles from that 3 to 4 year period, that hiring freeze was needed, because we were looking at every penny was important, because we didn't have any carryover. We actually were in a negative balance at one point, but we're in a much better place than we were 7 years ago.
I remember more than once that I brought up the comment that we were trying to fill a $450,000 hole.
Yeah.
And Road and Bridge, Road and Bridge took a huge hit.
But yeah,
It was a huge hit that year. Well, they never recovered, actually.
Never recover. You take $450,000 out of road and bridge budget, you never recover.
No.
just for a second.
Good.
Hi, Jeremy. Good. You missed them.
I know, I thought I was that fast enough, instead of towards the end of the agenda, and I thought, 30 minutes is probably enough.
Yeah, we're moving right along this morning.
Yeah, you guys are efficient.
Yeah, we don't have many 6-hour meetings like you folks do.
Well, we used to.
We used to, yeah.
Well, you know what, we might set on record tonight, hopefully not, but we're gonna try to get through it pretty quick and, see if we can make some decisions, or.
Good.
We should make some decisions. We hope we hope we're not here a long time, we'll see what happens. You got how many hours? 16, 11, 14, something like that? So,
You'll be here a while.
unfortunately, that's just the new business, that's not including the old business and all that stuff. So, but, gotta make some decisions. So, back to any other comments, I'd entertain a motion to eliminate the hiring freeze.
Okay. I'll make a motion to eliminate the hiring freeze within Bourbon County employees.
Here, a second,
Second.
any discussion?
I would clarify that.
Okay, it's replacing existing staff.
Yeah, for any elected or department head, replacing any additional staff. Any staff that retired or.
Right, so,
Okay.
amend that,
Adding replacing any elected official staff. So, okay.
existing staff. Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. All right, Mr. Meeks.
I won't stand in front of them this time, I'll sit down.
That's fine.
I have two things to discuss in open session, and then I will need an executive session for attorney-client privilege, possible litigation for. I'm on. No.
You're on.
Yes, I have to push the button a couple times, I guess. So, two issues to talk in open session, and then a third to go into executive session for 15 minutes for attorney-client privilege, possible litigation. We had an unintended death. We talked about this a couple of years back, and we knew the numbers were going to start increasing, and they are. It's just part of the aging process. It does happen in every community. It's just there's an increase just because of the population data. The baby boomers are unfortunately are starting to pass away, and because of that large group of individuals, there's going to be more unintended deaths in the future. And what that basically means for the commission, by statute, the county commissioners are responsible for taking care of the remains of those individuals. With your permission, Jackie and myself will sign documents needed to take care of that situation and dispose of those remains. So just giving you a heads up that that's occurring. We've had, I think Commissioner O'Hare and I were looking last week. We've had 3 already this year, and sometimes we would never have any, but it's going, one every couple of years to now we're averaging easily 1 a year, and it's actually looking like it's going to be more than that, probably 3 to 5 per year. And it's probably going to be that way for some time now. So we'll make sure we get our procedures and stuff in place so we don't have the kind of delays that we've had in the past. So just letting you know that is occurring, and that we'll be getting the documentation to the proper funeral homes to take care of that situation. And basically, one more clarifying, what that means is that there's no family member to take the person's remains, or a family member or that person doesn't have the financial ability to pay for their own funeral. And so that responsibility falls on the commission at the county level. So that kind of gives you a background on that.
So I would make a motion to allow Justin and the county attorney to handle the remains of the
Unintended death.
death.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Well, we actually get to talk about something exciting, in my opinion. We've been working for a lot of years now looking at data and trying to find ways to save money for the taxpayers. And so one of the things that has been brought to my attention recently, and I was also the chairman, is some way to consolidate government buildings. One of the things that has been talked about recently is to maybe have the ability for a municipality here locally to use our unused space at the county building. I don't think people really realize how much actual unused space we have at our building currently. There are numerous offices that are currently vacant. It's interesting to think about 1929 or 28 and the population mass that was here, in the 1890s, 1920s to compared now. Obviously, it's not a bad thing. It's just different. Population is not what it used to be in Bourbon County. We reached our high point in 1890, and the data has shown that we've had a different population mass since then. It's something that is just part of rural America. It's not unique to Bourbon County. It's just something that's happening all over rural America. So ways to this is the old college and I guess school administrator in me, but a facility costs money, and it actually is a lot of money when you have to pay for the lights and the water bill and the space that people are occupying. We've learned a lot through COVID that working from home has saved a lot of businesses a lot of costs, and the traditional way of running businesses and how offices are worked is going to change, I think, dramatically in the next couple decades. I mean, that's just some trends that are probably going to not go away. I mean, working from home or telecommuting, things of that nature. So with that in mind, having that steps and having those processes in place to maybe look at some form of consolidation within governments in Bourbon County to use one facility. I think the one-stop shop has been something that this commission has talked about. I mean, this current commission and even the prior commission has said, how can we better serve our citizens? And so having mills decreased, having a one-stop shop, using space that isn't used because it still costs money to have it is, I think, vital for the future growth for our community. So some processes need to be put in place to kind of look at that, see what it looks like a year or two from now, and maybe having a team. Obviously Susan's ideal. I think Shane being on that team is ideal. Looking at foreseeability, what kind of space we have, where we can move technology or offices to better suit our citizens' needs is something that I think is really important. And I think it could happen quickly, but it's something we need to start moving forward on, I think. So
one thing on the technology side is if you had a city located in the courthouse and the extra space, it would save a lot of money on technology because you're trying to maintain two technologies and both of them are not cheap. So there would be a savings. Okay, you're also looking at heating in there. We're already heating and conditioning the spaces now. So that would be another cost savings that we would realize. Then again, the one-stop shop. You come in, pay your taxes, you go and pay your water bill. It's kind of nice not having to get in your car and drive down the block.
I agree. If we can utilize that building to include the city, it'd be foolish not to. We can save the taxpayers money, but I would want to see reflect something to help the taxpayers save money. That would be my goal.
I think the benefit would be realized pretty quickly. I think obviously the utility bills at our current building would be divided between another municipality. The technology I think is a huge part of that. I mean, just storage rooms and servers, and I mean we're trying to move to the cloud. I mean, there's just so many shared services that could occur. And I'm not talking about a consolidation at all. I'm talking about shared services. I mean, it's just an issue of time on task and people that can, maintenance, light bulbs. I mean, everything could be there could be a savings involved. And when you shut a facility down, and obviously the home run is when you shut a facility down and that facility gets sold to where it's back on the tax rolls, and that someone's using it to a business or office space or something where it's used to help generate that valuation so it goes up. Because that's our ultimate goal. And really based off of the legislators at the state level and what we've been given at the local level, that's our only option at this point to get the taxes down, is to get that valuation up. And we've been talking about that for years. We have to get the valuation up to get the taxes down. Whatever we can to compress the money spent allows for an elected official to decrease the mill. And even a half a mill is important. I mean, $50,000 to me is what the vision would be with a consolidation for the county citizens. A half a mill is a lot.
And the other part of that is, once we do this, it would be handled on interlocal agreements. So, there would still be a very definite line on separation.
Absolutely. And if the way the space could be utilized, it would be a bright line on whose space is whose. There wouldn't be, multi-levels, or it'd all be one space would be one entity and one space would be the other entity with a possible shared, commission room. That'd be the only thing that would be shared, outside of the air and the lights and the water and the technology, the wiring, things of that nature.
Or maybe
Computers.
some shared services, like looking at the possibility going down the line of someone to help us out on HR issues.
Yeah, there's lots of issues with.
Lots of different things that we could look at.
Yep. But there's immediate savings for the taxpayers if you shut a facility down. So it's just something to think about in the coming weeks and months, and maybe have the commission give direction to some employees or team members to look into that and see what the if it's viable or not. But spending a little.
I think probably a good team to really kind of look at it, look at the whole aspect, as would be Susan and Shane and you, as far as the legal side of this endeavor.
Agree. Yeah.
To actually just go in and then after you come back and make recommendations to the commission. What do you think?
I agree.
So you want to make a motion to allow those three to take the initial look at what that looks like?
Want me to make a motion? Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with reviewing the shared space at the Bourbon County Courthouse with the city of Fort Scott, and allow Justin and Susan and Shane work together as a team to put together a study and review and some ideals and come back to county commission.
Here, a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries.
Commissioners, I ask under KSA 754319B2 to go into executive session for 15 minutes. We leave this room and return back to this room. I don't have the clock in front of me, so I'll have to rely on one of the commissioners to give me the time. It's for attorney-client privilege, and the subject matter is possible litigation.
Clock.
And we will need to bring Commissioner Beth in via cell phone
Okay.
to that meeting. So we'll have to hang up the turtle and basically reconvene an executive session with the three commissioners and myself.
So moved.
Second.
There's a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Chairman, I need
Who are we going to have in?
the two commissioners and then the Commissioner Beth via cell phone, but I need to know what time we're
I'll
returning
let you know. It'll be 10:18 if we're doing 15 minutes.
back to
That's
this room. And the subject matter is possible litigation.
Possible litigation. Do you need to be in this one or not?
Nope.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. at 10:18, and there was no action. I hear a second.
I second that.
I move we resume our regular scheduled commission meeting. There a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Christian, I'm gonna put you back on speakerphone.
Then did you get that, Lynn?
Hello.
Okay, back in business. Any other comments, Justin, or you done?
I think the commission, should make a motion to allow for the commissioners to go to a meet and greet Wednesday evening at Sharky's at 5, I think.
That's Luther's.
Luther, sorry, I didn't know where it was.
Upstairs.
Upstairs of Luther's.
Okay.
I'll make a motion,
Yep.
I'll make it.
I'll make that motion to allow all commissioners to attend a meet and greet at Luther's Barbecue tomorrow at 5 p.m. Any more
On the
than
second
that?
floor.
On the second floor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Is that it? Okay. Open it up for public comments.
Do you have a folder? I'm sorry. Do you have a folder from Ashley? Says, please don't forget to adopt the resolution that's already
Oh,
in the
I've got
folder.
it, that's in commission comments.
Okay.
Okay, one of the things I don't like about waiting until public comment is that now I have to back up and ask my questions of the stuff you all already talked about, just for clarification. So that's where we're going to start anyway. I do want to commend you on the opening of the courthouse, or at least trying to relax some things. Does that mean that the door greeter on the one side, that she'll be gone? And that we'll be able to freely go in and out, the doors won't be locked, and we won't have to, but masks and all that stuff is dependent upon what office you're going to and all that kind of thing. Okay, which you've done an excellent job, I feel like, or at least each of those departments have done a wonderful job in trying to still conduct business with the plexiglass and all of that. So I do commend you on that, on those moves. The hiring freeze. I remember several times Patty Love coming in and saying, my workforce is supposed to be X amount of employees. Now, does that mean, is she at that number? I always, oh, no one knows. Is she going to be able to go back to the number where she...
Only what she's budgeted for.
And then, yes, as long as it's, okay, because that's the only instance I remember her talking about, yeah, I've got X, but I used to have X, and okay, all right. I just was curious. Okay.
When we talk about budget, a couple items in budget that if you take into consideration, that's the salary.
Yeah.
And then separate is the employee benefits.
Yeah, which is, still confusing. So anyway, so can I ask, I'll ask, you can say no, do we have an announcement for the Bedco director yet? No announcement? Okay, that's fine. And you answered that question. Oh, I was wondering, it wasn't until about halfway through this morning already, where the county clerk is, why she's not here taking notes. Oh, you don't know. Okay, because I know previously when we met here, it was because of election, and she was...
Explained to me, and here the clerk gave me some things that we have to go over, and we're happy that she said that she would take her notes off to the video.
Okay.
And just
that's okay.
another for your question, the reason why we had to come here today was that we had an upgrade. We were adding we had a patron concerned with the speakers' inability to hear in our commission room, so they tried to add additional speakers yesterday, and it bricked the system. So they're trying to get that fixed, and hopefully by next commission meeting, we have a microphone system that amplifies voice, and so that Commissioner O'Hare, who sometimes talks very gently, can be heard through the commission room. So that's why we're here today, because it.
Because I'm old.
Well, and
It's not, it's not an age issue, Commissioner. You talk softly, carry a big stick.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm glad for that clarification, because somebody did ask me that, and I, for some reason, I thought I saw something about because of weather, might have had an issue there too, but no. Okay.
Technology.
Updating is always good.
Yeah, we were trying to get speakers, and it didn't marry with the system very well.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. And I'll ask. I have some questions about Bedco, just the formulation of it. You can always say I'm not going to answer that. I accept those answers. I just want some basic information, at least to start with today.
I know I can go back in history if you want to.
I don't care, you can go back in history. Bedco's been around since, what, 1990?
Well, that's kind of where I was going to start. So yeah, so it was created in
92, and there was
really?
Yes, there were community leaders that were involved with Bedco back then. It was a economic engine for the different departments or the different groups within the community to help move economic development forward within the county or the Bourbon County community. It was a very strong and active group. And actually was still active and still is active up until current time. Steve Berge was very involved with Bedco, and those economic incentives that were given through Bedco were substantial for businesses that were moving in, but it was finite to basically I guess it's kind of hard. It's kind of complicated. I don't want to go too far into the weeds, but a lot of what Bedco was the industrial park and the land that they owned. And so there wasn't necessarily the arm that went out and reached into Uniontown or reached into Bronson or reached into the city of Fort Scott. It was mostly focusing on the industrial park, and then also trying to help with the city center in Fort Scott, and then just helping in general with incentives to new businesses coming in. It wasn't necessarily a recruiting tool. It was more of a funding mechanism.
Okay. All right.
The other part of that, if you wanted to look at what's the training, and I think we've talked about Allen County Thrive quite often. If you get an opportunity, go over and tour the facility. They are a force that is very prominent in Allen County, and they are bringing a lot of good things to that community, that county.
Oh yeah, you can tell that just by their square.
Yes.
Over the years when we've traveled back and forth, and just seeing the growth. And
Humboldt is part of that.
Yeah.
Moran is part of that. So the model is the same.
Okay. All right then. I think that's all on that. I'm afraid I misspoke a little bit. I guess I would like to ask there again some basic questions on the Blue Cross Blue Shield grant money. And can I not even? Okay. 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 All right. Is that going to be put back on the agenda at some point? Okay, but you're not ready to say when today?
No.
Okay. Okay. All right then. Okay. I guess okay. I'll ask this question. You tell me no. Okay. And I don't want to be shut down for saying the wrong things. That grant money, who is overseeing it now?
We're not going to get into
okay.
that right now because we're going to do some executive session. That this needs to stay in executive session.
Okay. Okay. Well, I just with the reworkings of what happened a few weeks ago.
We have.
Then I began to think what happens now.
Yeah, there is a lot of internal, and really our executive session was not about the Blue Cross Blue Shield grant, but we do have a lot of moving parts right now.
Okay.
And there's, there's legal documents that are actually able to be requested through Cora.
Okay.
And if you're asking for budget issues within the Blue Cross Blue Shield, it would also be Cora discoverable.
Okay.
So if you're wanting some information on how the money is spent or how it's managed, there are documents that exist at the county that you have access to because they are open records and can be requested through Cora.
All right. I think that's all, guys. Thanks so much for all you do.
Thank you.
I have a question. Just a minor one. What's the meet and greet for? Who you meeting and
It's
greeting?
just, they are bringing down the possible candidate for the economic development position
Oh, okay. Sounds good to me.
for Bedco.
That wasn't clear to me, and now. Hey, thank you. That was it.
Okay.
Easy.
Commissioner comments.
Well, we have one more.
We have one more, Michael.
Good morning.
Aren't you?
I'm sorry?
You're sneaking in there.
I did? Okay. Just one comment. I was just out at the vaccination center. So if you hear my voice and you have not had a vaccine, they have them available out there. Don't let them spoil. When I left there at 12:15, they had only inoculated 12 people. They have 700 doses, I believe, today.
That's Moderna.
Moderna. And I believe they're going to open it up after noon to phases 1, 2, and 3. So encourage, and I think some of the businesses are encouraging to send their people over out in the industrial park. So whoever needs a vaccination, if you choose to take one, and I did, and I had probably the most severe. I could talk about my own health and without anything, right? I had terrible reaction to the Moderna virus for about 4 days. I still think I have COVID dementia, but that is your opinion. That could be your opinion.
So Michael, I hate to do this, but I'm going to do the 180 on you. I had the Moderna vaccination, both of them. I don't think I even felt getting the shot.
You're lucky I did. I was asleep for 3 days.
Oh my.
Had the most vivid dreams, and I could share them with you right now if you wanted to go. Yeah. So before even Mr. Fisher left, I gave you all a document concerning the establishment and why you should establish and the effective use of citizen advisory boards. Heard some positive feedback back from you, but we haven't gone anywhere. I've done some other research, attended some advisory board meetings in Johnson County, and they use them extensively and very effectively. So I'm here to tell you I'd like to see what we could do to either put together a steering committee, task force, whatever you want to call it, because I don't have any topics from you yet to how you would like, topics you would like to assign to these advisory boards. They're only advisory positions to the commission. They take off a lot of this workload of research, trial balloons, whatever you want to call it. But I'd like to see them go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll be here to help if that's necessary.
Thank you, Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You want me to go ahead and get these other?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A few things. So last week we passed a motion to raise registered deed salary. This is a resolution. And I move that we adopt resolution 13-21, Bourbon County, Kansas, salary resolution for elected officials effective March 7th, 2021. And the only item on here that has any change is registered deeds, and it brings her annual salary up to $47,248.28. And that brings her in line with the county clerk and the county clerk.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We all three have some.
Yeah.
All right. We have the resolution 14-21, which is the election results. I move we approve resolution 14-21 on election day. They had a total of 319 votes, 100 and early votes. They had 199, had one provisional vote, Total votes, yes, was 312 for yes, 206 for no. Percentages was 60.23 for yes, 39.77 for no. And then the breakdown is election day and early voting. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This was the 0.5%. And the provisional ballot, sorry, I wasn't able to attend the certification. Did they have any provisional ballots where people went to the wrong?
One. They only have one provisional ballot. And I think it dealt with the name. If I remember, my,
There's a topic afloat about if you go to the wrong form, but it's in
well, I think there was a, so when they get into that, Michael, see if I got the precincts at there's only 2 voting places, okay?
So there were 4 total provisional ballots and 3 didn't count. And the reason was name or unregistered.
Yeah, one of them was probably not registered in time.
One
One
was.
was a name issue. I don't remember the other 2. But only one of them counted as 4.
Yeah, okay. I'll just re-speak. I've heard there's going to be an issue of provisional ballots of electors who go to the wrong precinct.
If they were in the wrong precinct, we would have moved them over to the right precinct. So there wasn't any of those.
Well, I know, I'm just saying, this is future conversation. This is a result of, I think, probably Georgia and some of those battleground states, that this is now being spoken. So,
I hope the next general election, we have it's different on some levels.
like the more people show up to vote.
Yeah, that would be really great. That would be a really nice.
It would be a really nice.
Thomas Jefferson would be very disappointed with our population.
Well, also the Bedco board member, which I am, one of 13. We have the luxury. Well, start off with I drug the new city manager along with me yesterday to go visit Clyde. That was a very good. It was a very good outing, I would think. He got to learn a lot about. Jeremy got to learn a lot about Allen County's run. And it was a very very good meeting. So I enjoyed the outing. I think that we ought to have more meetings, and I think we can really come up with a lot of common ground between the city and the county. Of course, being a commissioner, I can't make decisions or anything like that. So hopefully that we'll have some work sessions coming up in the near future and be able to discuss some of these issues and items that we think we can save the taxpayer money and increase services to our community. I hope I didn't bore Jeremy too much yesterday.
No, it was a good meeting. It was informative. The 5 executive directors very forthcoming in terms of their experience and some of the pitfalls and some of the challenges. I think it was informative to the extent that it allowed me to visualize how our system, how our new direction may progress. So I thought it was very useful.
Very good.
Anything's better than a sewer meeting, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I'm still confused on when commissioners can go with people to talk to.
I was going as a private citizen. Well, I was going as a board member of Bedco. I'm not.
Okay.
Not as a county representative. I was strictly nothing but a Bedco member, and I have authority to do.
I would find that very hard. I'm sorry.
Well, it's very hard for all of us. It really is. It makes it very difficult to do business.
It would be awesome. I mean, if a community group would go and talk to, and try to she's awesome.
Yeah.
And she loves to meet with people.
Okay.
So if anybody wants to go and meet with her,
Okay.
that would be, she would absolutely open up.
Okay, well.
It's kind of like me being the chair of Southeast Kansas Regional Planning Committee. I stepped out of the room to sign a contract.
Well, and I will add that at my request, Lynn was, able to connect me with the Thrive Executive Director. Really, the whole point of the meeting is just for him to facilitate a meeting between she and I, so that I can get her perspective of how Thrive function, and then I can form my own opinion as to how, in the future, the city and Bedco might function together. So, so it wasn't information I received from him as much as it was just an introduction to her. And she did all the presenting, all the talking.
Oh, yes, no, I don't have a problem with that. It's just every time one of these guys goes and does something, sometimes they have to have permission, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes, yeah.
Well, it's kind of like Clifton's on the board for the juvenile detention. Jim's on the board for the mental health. So we have the ability to do things by being board members. And when we set Bedco up, one of the things that we really discussed and looked at is how we set Bedco up. And we were very interested in the Allen County Thrive model. And we really based a lot of our organization on that model.
I encourage you to join us on the 24th. So become very clear to you.
The Kansas Open meeting actually on the 23rd, 10:30. No, you can ask all the questions that you need to ask of the Attorney General's office.
Okay, I'm done.
I just, excuse me, just want to share that last Friday we did travel to the meatpacking place in Spring Hill, Kansas. Jeremy and Justin and Shane and the mayor, myself went. I was very impressed. It was a very clean facility. There was no odor. They did a good job taking care of the place and very good people. So I was very excited to see what we saw. And I think it's a good for Bourbon County.
And if I can add, and I don't know if it's okay for you.
Yeah.
Sure.
But if I can, I would say that the comparison between that facility, which is a facility that they just meet their needs, versus a facility that would potentially be considered for Fort Scott, is like comparing a 75 Cadillac to a 2020 Cadillac. The building is not the same, the processes are not the same, but even not considering that, even having just gone there and visited the facility, as an older facility, I still did not have any. I was very surprised that there was no major smell. And I know there's temperature factors, there's all these other factors that may not be in play at the moment, but it did not strike me as a facility that would be a hindrance or a nuisance to the community of Fort Scott. Now, I'm not a voting member, that's just not.
What do you think, Justin?
I was surprised by the proximity of the two residential homes in the downtown area. How close those, and that being there, not really that long ago, it did change ownership to where those people in those residential areas could have complained. I mean, it was just way different than I thought. I grew up, on a farm where, we'd slaughter a pig once a year, and it was really different than how that system worked. It was way different. Much more,
Yeah.
Great example. I mean, it was 1949, 1975 Cadillac. It was really an old facility. So I think if they can modernize it, it's going to be totally different than what it is now.
But I wanted to share that because I wanted the public to know we did go look. We was concerned that we did our job. So.
We literally wanted to smell the facility.
Yeah.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
We wanted to smell pig butts. We did. We tried to. It was hard. I was surprised by the lack of smell. I was really surprised.
I was
growing
too.
up around pigs.
Yeah.
It was surprising how.
And you didn't even bring a squeal back.
No. I got hungry.
And you didn't buy lunch, so.
I didn't buy lunch.
So will we have a public comment period tonight?
That is a question that I'm actually going to run by our city attorney as soon as he gets here. If need be, and he determines in his legal opinion that you can or cannot, then we'll just follow his direction, because that's obviously what we retain the services for. But I have not had a chance to ask him that question. If he determines that we cannot, it will be removed from the agenda.
That's all I have.
Anything else?
Nope.
Clifton, do you have anything?
Nope. Excuse me. Nope.
Okay. Any other business? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, please.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.